Solving a quadratic equation using factoring and the zero product principle. First thing you must do is get all terms on the same side, otherwise the equation doesn't equal zero, so we couldn't use the zero product principle. So I'm going to subtract the constant to get it on the same side as everything else. And that's the first step. Second step, factor the quadratic expression. So to factor this expression, I'm going to multiply A and C. That will give me negative 72. And I want two numbers that multiply to give me negative 72 and add to give me negative 1. So they multiply to be negative, so opposite signs. They add to be negative, so the bigger one has to be negative. So I'm going to be systematic in checking my numbers. 1 and negative 72, add to negative 71. 2 and negative 36, add to negative 34. 3 and negative 24, add to negative 21. 4 and negative 18, add to negative 14. You see we're getting closer as I move up. 5 doesn't go into negative 72. 6 does, but those add to negative 6. 7 doesn't go into it. 8 does, negative 9 times, and those add to negative 1. So now I'm going to factor using my box. So the box is set up by putting the squared term in the upper left, my constant term in the lower right, and the two numbers I just came up with in the other two boxes with x's next to them. So now I'm going to look for the GCF of the first row. 12 and 8 have a greatest common factor of 4, and x squared and x have a greatest common factor of x. So the greatest common factor here is 4x. If this is 4x, then for this to be 12x squared, this has to be 3x. And if this is 4x, for this to be 8x, this has to be 2. If this is 3x, for this to be negative 9x, this has to be negative 3. And you can see that 2 and negative 3 do make negative 6. So my factors are here and here. So the factored form of this expression would be 3x plus 2 times 4x minus 3. And that still equals 0. So now I'm ready to use the zero product principle by setting each of these factors equal to 0. Since their product is 0, one of the two has to be 0. So now I'm going to solve each of these things for x. Subtract 2 from both sides here, and then divide by 3. So x is negative 2/3. And I add 3 to both sides over here. And then divide both sides by 4. So x would be 3/4. And then if you want, you can check your answer in the end. And remember, the best way of doing that is to take one of the answers, plug it into your calculator, and store it as a letter, like A, hit enter, and then use the original equation, where if you did 12a squared minus a, if you hit enter, that should give you 6. Or if you wanted to, you could check this point, type this in, and that should give you 0. That's solving by factoring and the zero product principle.